My ninjas, what is good? The new favorite items dropped today, meaning the new buffs have come over to Nikke. Did they revive these 4 characters? Are they better? Are they worse? Are we gonna get a Milk 2.0, a Senti 2.0, or maybe a Moran 2.0? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. It's like I'm just getting. Find out now without wasting any further more of your time. Let's dive right in. So, Precious Mask. I'm gonna just go out on a limb here and say this is Phantom's favorite item, you know. Let's see. Phantom's skill 1, Thief's Calling Card. What it used to do, activates when landing a normal attack on a raptor that is not in the calling card status. It would reduce defense by 32% for 5 seconds, and then it would also activates when landing a normal attack on a raptor that is not in the calling card state. Affect self. Hit rate will go up by about 26%, stacking up 3 times and lasts for 5 seconds. Last part, activates when landing a normal attack on a target that is in the calling card status, affects self, and then your attack damage will go up by 75% for 1 round. Let's be honest, two of those buffs are pretty useless. And that attack damage up by 75% for 1 round, she's an AR, not like she a sniper rifle. Anyway, what it now does when you have a favorite item, it still lowers the enemy's defense. It also still buffs up her hit rate for stacking up 3 stacks. But it also, one of the new effects, activates after landing 30 normal attacks on the stage target. Affects self. Your hit rate goes up by another 25% and stacks up to 3 times. And it lasts for 5 seconds. Oh, is this so? Because how you would play Phantom, it was kind of weird. So basically, to put an enemy in a calling card status, you would have to hit the enemy, meaning that if it's a boss, you don't get this. So they made it so you can also just hit an enemy 30 times and then you would get this, and the same thing. And then it will still boost your attack damage by 75% for 1 round when attacking an enemy in the calling card set. So okay, we not off to a strong start with Phantom. Okay, phase 2. Listen, she still got 2 skills. Still time to bring it back. What it did before, activates when Thief Dagger is at max stacks. If I'm not mistaken, Thief Dagger, yep. The hit rate buff affects target in the calling card status. Deals 84% of final attack as additional damage and removes calling card. Activates, and then it would also activates when Thief Dagger is at max stacks, removes stacks, and affects self. Distributed damage is up by 13% continuously and stacks up to 3 times. Stacks are removed when using burst skill. After performing 10 normal attacks, affects self. Attack will go up by 85% for 5 seconds, and the distributed damage will go up by 32% for 10 seconds. What it does now, activates when Thief Dagger is at max stats, so you'll still get the 85 or 84% of final attack as additional damage, and it still removes calling card. Activates, yep, you still get the distributed damage up by 12 or 13% continuously when stacking up. It stacks up to 3 times when it's also at max stacks. And then, oh, okay, this is the new effect. Activates when the Thief Dagger is at max stacks, removes stacks, and affects all enemies. Deals 250% of final attack as distributed damage. She does like a good nuke of 250% of final attack distributed damage, and also gives herself the attack buff, but she loses out on the distributed damage buff that she would get from the 10 normal attacks from before. Okay. Let's see, because you would have to do about 90 normal attacks to get all max stacks on Thieves Dagger. So she is an AR, so you would probably get that off relatively quickly. You probably want some max ammo lines on her. Okay. Oh wait, my bad. She doesn't lose the distributed damage. It's still here. I just didn't scroll down all the way. My bad, people. All right, then we move on to the phase 3, her burst skill. So it used to just do some AoE. It would affect all enemies, deal 1,457% of final attack and distributed damage. What it does now, it still does that big nuke that affects all enemies, and then it affects the enemy if the enemy is a fire code target. Damage taken up by 18% for 30 seconds. And she gives herself, increases her ammo capacity by 15% for 10 seconds. Okay. She probably be a good pick for Water Week solo raids. With that debuff in mind, turned it into a little bit of a way to boost the team's damage. Make it a little bit of a support low-key with that burst skill. Okay, I like that. Okay, she came back in the second half. Because that first phase, I wasn't sure about, but they had us in the first half, brought us back in the second half. All right, moving on. Who's next? Planter we made together. Obviously, this is for Flora. Now, out of all of these, Flora was probably the one I had no idea how they would like do. Because I was thinking like, I don't even remember what Flora did at one point. But let's see what she does. Her skill 1, Platoon. It used to activate at the start of battle as long as the unit is alive. Affects self and both adjacent allies. It will restore HP equal to 1% of the skill user's final max HP every second. Oh yeah, she used to be a healer. Incoming healing was up by 4% continuously and stacked up to 5 times. And then activated after landing 100 normal attacks. Affected all electric cold allies. Increased stat count of stat will bust by 1. But now, activates at the start of battle as long as unit is alive, affects self and both adjacent targets. Okay, so she still restores HP, okay, and then, you know, it still does the 4% continuously for incoming healing, and then activates after landing 100 normal attacks. That's still the same, increases stat bust by 1 for electrical and allies. And then they added, activates when entering burst stage 2, affects all allies in the peace of mind state. Maximum HP is up by 15% of the skill user's max HP without restoring HP for 2 seconds. But all right, moving on to phase 2. What skill 2 Iris used to do, activates when HP of the adjacent ally drops below 90% or below while their ally is still alive, affects all allies. She created a shield with HP equal to 10% of her final max HP, and it lasts for 10 seconds. It activates when either adjacent ally reaches max HP. Affects all allies. True damage would go up by 31% for 5 seconds. Oh, she was a true damage buffer? I completely forgot. It's like I'm learning Flora's Kid again for the first time. Now, it still creates the shield, still buffs true damage, but activates when a shield is placed in front of this unit. Affects all allies in the peace of mind state. Or attack goes up by 45% of the skill user's attack for 10 seconds. Okay, that's good. So she can buff anyone and not just true damage units that buff. Okay, making her more of a generalist support. All right. Phase 3, if there's one thing I do remember about Flora, if I'm not mistaken, she used to be a 40-second burst cooldown. So that's probably what killed her, about why she kind of died on arrival. But phase 3, Secret Garden, yep, 40 seconds. Secret Garden affected all allies, recovers 10.45% of the skill user's final max HP, and then it buffed true damage by 42% for 10 seconds. Now what it does, she still will restore 10% of the skill user's final max HP, and then she also gives that true damage buff, but now she will give a 85.86% attack buff based on her attack, not her final attack, mind you, of her attack, meaning base attack here, for 10 seconds. I feel like they took kind of a good step into the right direction, but she's still a 40-second B2, meaning you would have to run someone else with her. Now, if you could probably put her in like a, because in some cases, you don't always run like another like 3B3s in your team. So you probably could fit her in here. And then she would buff HP or buff max HP. She would heal. She would provide true damage bonus. And she would also provide an attack bonus. Because she gives like she would still be able to give 45% of attack buff based on her attack. Plus, if it's adjacent, she would have to place like right in the middle of your formation. And then you would have to put your DPS, the characters you do want to get the buff, in that slots 2 and 4. So yeah, she could probably get some use. If in an electric weak raid, if you running like On and Ada, you probably could get some use out of this. But anyway, moving on. Okay, the Signet Ring. I'm gonna guess this one's for Rosanna. So, for anyone who didn't know, Rosanna is a pure PvP unit, but they have shown that they can make a PvP unit a freaking monster, a goddess with Moran's treasure. So, in a way, I have high hopes for this, and I'm kind of excited. Let's dive in. Rosanna skill 1, Capo de Capi. Used to activates at the start of battle, affects self, concealment. prevents being targeted by single target attacks for 5 seconds. This effect is removed upon taking a direct hit. And then it would also activates when a Nikke is incapacitated and affect itself. Frenzy, it would buff her attack by 22%, and it stacked up to 10 times and lasted for 30 seconds. And it filled your burst gauge speed by 36%. And hence why we called her a PvP unit, because in PvE scenario, you don't typically want your Nikkes to die. What up, Zay? How are you, my friend? Zay says, is that a wild loan? It sure is. He also says how Nikke is going. It's going good. We going over the new favorite items. So far, one has been a banger and one has been kinda We reading the third one now. But Capo de Cappy, what it does now, it still prevents self from being targeted by single target attacks for 5 seconds. Okay, it still does a thing where she gets an attack buff, burst gauge when a Nikke is incapacitated. But now, let's see, it will also activates when a Nikke is incapacitated, prioritizes attacker type enemies and affects one unit. It will deal 400% of the final attack as damage. So whatever, if it's just like an attacker in the enemy team, like one attacker, they getting probably just instantly obliterated with that skill. But the other part activates after landing 500 normal attacks on the stage target, affects self. Frenzy. Oh, she basically just gives herself the 22% attack buff, and it will still stack up to 10 times and last for 30 seconds. 500 normal attacks though? That means to get the most out of this, you would have to fire off 5,000 rounds to get the full attack buff. Now she is an MG, so she does fire very quickly, but still, bro, you would have to have so much ammo on her. But I do like the idea of Rosanna being used in PvP, so let's continue. You got me intrigued now. My loins are tingling. Zay says, bro, 2031 was absolute pain. So happy I did it. Now remind me, Zay, is 2031 Nilister? Is that what that is? Okay, but her phase 2, Vendetta. So what it used to do, it prioritizes attacker type enemies, affect 2 units, deals 1,310% of final attack is damage, and then it also activated if the skill user is in the concealment state, activated the same target, dealt an additional 561% of final attack as additional damage. What it does now, it still does those 2 things, but now what it does, it activates if the target that was hit by a Certo is a water code stage target, affects the target, damage taken up by 29% for 30 seconds. So wait though, this still says prioritize the attacker type enemy, but this says stage target, which for those who don't know, stage target is basically the boss that appears at the end of each stage, or the boss stage. So do attacker type enemies also include raptures? Prioritize a specific enemy type when selecting a target. When there is no of that enemy type, a different enemy will be targeted. So maybe it will now classify the attacker as a rapture or a boss, but 29%. Oh wait, this is her burst skill. So but she's still a 40-second B1 though. But wait, we still got phase 3. So let's move on to phase 3 before I say anything. Okay, skill 1, on the lamb. What it used to do, activates after landing 120 normal attacks, affects self, concealment. It would prevent herself from being targeted by a single target attack for 10 seconds. This effect is removed upon taking a direct hit. Plus a crit rate by 20% for 3 seconds. And then it would activate after performing the normal attacks, affect 2 enemies with the highest final attack. Removes 5 buffs, activates 1 time per battle. Okay. What it does now, it still prevents herself from being targeted and buffs a crit rate by 20%. Still removes the buff, but it now activates when the stage target appears. Affects self. Elemental advantage attack damage up by 20% continuously. They kind of turned Rosanna into a B1 DPS support. She does increase the enemy's damage taken with her burst skill now by 29%, which is honestly pretty good. Pretty good. And then she also buffs her own damage up by, her elemental damage up by 20% continuously. I'm kind of mixed on this one. This one would probably require a bit of testing because a 40-second B1 is a hard sell. It's a rough sell. this would mean that you would have to run a second B1. And depending on the scenario, that might be like no bueno. Like, no, just don't even try. But we would have to test that. So I'm not going to comment too much on that one for now. We moving on to the last one, the one I'm the most excited for. Please shift up. Sugar, her commemorative keychain. Now, for those who don't know, Sugar is one of my favorite Nikke. One of the 2 reasons I started Nikke, her and Maiden. Shift up, Maiden Treasure win, by the way. So I have high hopes for this. Please shift up. Please make my girl good. Make her as powerful as she is thick. God damn it. Zay says, yeah, I believe it's the fire boss. Nilister? Okay. Then in that case, it's congrats, Zay. Nilister can be a bit of a pain. I'm happy for you. But anyway, let's dive right into this. Come on, please be good. Okay, so Sugar, her skill 1, Black Typhoon used to be, there is a 20% chance of activating when the cover is attack, and it would affect self. Increase her crit damage by 16% for 10 seconds and her reload speed by 12% for 10 seconds, which is sure, okay. But what it does now, activates when cover is attacked. So it just, none of that 20% nonsense. If your cover's attack, you get this. It still buffs the crit damage and the reload speed by the same amount, but now it restores cover HP and amount equal to 1.5% of the skill user's final max HP. Okay. So she kind of can provide herself a little sustain with restoring her cover. If I'm not mistaken, that would make her what, the 3rd character that can heal cover, the other 2 being Litter and Biscuit. So okay, not a unique effect, not something we see often. And then it activates if the unit cover is still intact. Attack damage up by 20% continuously. So I would assume that means if your cover is still at max HP, she just gives herself a 20% attack buff. Okay, attack damage buff, which is good. Again, I say it every time. Attack damage is what you want. It is the final multiplier in the damage formula. But it also it activates at the start of battle effect. So converts damage to elemental advantage damage against fire code enemies. This effect is continuous and cannot be removed. So you trying to tell me Sugar, they basically gave Sugar Rappy's effect, where Rappy is in both a fire and an iron Nikke, where she does bonus damage to both wind and electric enemies. But so they made Sugar both a iron code and water Nikke. They cooking. Okay, so she'll be good in both an iron raid and a water raid. I like this a lot. Okay, skill 2, Noir Sensor. Used to activate when entering full burst effect self. It will buff a crit rate by 13% for 10 seconds. And activates when entering full burst effect all allies with shotguns. Ammo capacity went up by 83% for 10 seconds. What it does now, activates when entering full burst effect self. And now it still buffs crit rate by the 13%, but now also buffs her attack by 25% for 10 seconds. It still buffs all ally shotgun damage. Activates when entering full burst. Affects all water code and iron code allies with shotguns. Elemental advantage attack damage is up by 40% for 15 seconds. Oh, hell yeah. Basically, and both a water and iron weak solo raid. Sugar going slap. So Sugar, either you put her in the main shotgun team, would you take out Drake for this? Yeah, that will require some testing, but I like the way that sounds. I'm not entirely sure how that team will look. We had to test that too. Phase 3, Troubleshooter. It used to affect self. Attack speed will be up by 66% for 15 seconds and hit rate up by 33% for 15 seconds. What it does now, it still gives the attack speed, hit rate, but now she gives herself also 20% attack for 15 seconds, and it affects all water code and iron code allies with shotguns. Elemental advantage attack damage goes up by 60% for 15 seconds. Oh, hell yeah, bruh. That's what I wanted. I wanted my girl to be strong, and they delivered, at least on paper, because this could honestly be turned into a freaking dumpster fire when we actually test her. But on paper, it sounds good. Now that we've read all of them, what is the verdict? So, Out of all of these, I feel like, just by reading this, mind you, we haven't tested none. I'm just going purely off of what is on paper. If I had to rank these favorite items in order by probably most prioritized to least prioritized, probably is our #1 contender for treasures out of this bunch, out of these 4. Because given what basically she turns into, she's still a DPS, but also she turns into a support for other shotgun units, mainly your iron and your water cold shotgun units. So yeah, after that, next up would be probably Phantom, because Phantom is going to be a better DPS. She also will now increase damage taken to a fire coast boss for 30 seconds. Now that I think about it, that'll basically be up for like all the match, because of depending on how fast you can recycle burst, you might be able to keep that buff permanently on the stage fire target. But yeah, she would be second. Rosanna would be, now when we get to third place, it's kind of a toss-up. It's kind of a toss-up because the only thing Rosanna is really given is that 39% the damage taken debuff for the water cold stage target. And other than that, she's not really doing much else for the team. And she only, okay, so I'm gonna give third place to Flora, because at least she's providing support for your team and buffing your team's damage. And then Rosanna is probably going to be maybe least impactful, but then again, I feel like I gotta test this before I say anything concrete. But I'm gonna stick to that for now. So Sugar is the first contender, Phantom, Flora, and then lastly Rosanna in order of prioritized to most priorities to least priority, in that order. Yeah, my ninjas, that'll be all I got for you today. Shift up, kinda cook with this batch. It's like half and half. Like 2 out of these 4 are pretty solid in my opinion, and the other 2 are kinda so-so. I wouldn't necessarily say any of these are bad per se. Like, it's not like milk level. 2 of these, or mainly Rosanna, is going to require some testing. But if you enjoyed the video, you already know what to do. Reach out and slap that like and subscribe button right in the bed cheek one time. Just like how you want to slap Sugar right in the bed cheek one time. I'll share it today. Y'all can slap Sugar's cheeks. Leave me a comment telling me whose favorite item are you gonna go for. And until next time, ninjas roll out.